When adding or subtracting decimals, what you're really doing is always adding place values. And so we need to review place values. Where you see the decimal point, that separates the whole numbers to the parts. And decimals are always parts of a whole number. They're just like fractions. And again, here are the whole numbers. This is the ones place, tens, hundreds. Anything after the decimal point, this is 5/10. This is 0 hundredths. This could be read 50 hundredths. The 9 is in the thousandths. The 7 is in the 10,000ths. This part is read 5,097 10,000ths. So again, when we add or subtract, we're adding and subtracting place value. The steps to add and subtract decimals, here's the algorithm, it's just the steps. It's best to estimate because you can always compare your actual answer to your estimated answer. Write the numbers vertically like you would normally with whole numbers. Make sure you are lining up the decimals. What you're truly doing, again, you're adding those place values or subtracting those place values. This part is key. If there is not a decimal point at all, it's always at the end of a number. So in the number 62, it's always at the end. Add zeros to fill all the place values. You're going to add or subtract. This part is crucial. Make sure you bring down the decimal into your answer. Let's go ahead and do this one. I have 6.423, or I could read it as 6 and 423 thousandths plus 7 and 8 tenths plus 5. So I'm going to write down 6.423. Right here is my decimal point, which means everything else, that's where the decimal point has to go. Here's another one, 7.8. Now don't forget, this number 5 doesn't have a decimal point at all, but it's always at the end because this represents 5 ones. So it has to go here. And since we're adding, and then I always add zeros to show the place values that I'm adding. So now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to add, this is my thousandths place, and this is a 3. I am adding my hundredths place, this is a 2. I am adding my tenths, this is 12 tenths. I carry the 1. Again, do you see this decimal point right here? It has to go exactly in the same spot. So I'm putting my decimal point right here. Then I'm adding 6 plus 1 is 7, plus 7 is 14, plus 5 is 19. And therefore my answer is 19 and 223 thousandths. Now we are going to subtract decimals. I'm going to subtract 286 and 53 hundredths minus 75 and 48 hundredths. Again, I'm going to write the first one. This one is larger. I'm subtracting from that. If you notice, right here's my decimal point, so that means this decimal point has to go in the exact same spot. This is 75. 5 is in the ones, 7 is in the tens. Here's the ones, here's the tens. Ones, tens, I'm lining up place values. 4 is in the tenths, 8 is in the hundredths. Now I'm going to subtract. I always like to automatically bring down my decimal point before we even start. Can you take 8 from 3? No, you can't, so that means you have to borrow from the 5. This becomes a 4. That's a 13. 13 minus 8 is actually 5. 4 minus 4 is 0. Now I'm going to subtract the ones place. 6 minus 5 is 1. 8 minus 7 is 1. And you notice I don't have a number here, but what's really there is a 0. So 2 minus 0 is actually 2. And so my answer is 211 and 5/100ths. We are going to subtract these two, but then we're also going to check our answer by adding, doing the opposite. 17.6. Again, line up the decimals. Sorry. The 5 is in the ones place. The 7 is in the tenths. The 2 is in the hundredths. Again, go ahead and put zeros to fill in the place values because you're actually adding or subtracting place values. Now, you cannot take 2 from 0. You cannot take 7 from 6. But you can take 5 from 7. That's what we're going to borrow. But before I do that, I want to go ahead and put my decimal in my answer. I have to borrow from the 7. It becomes a 6. I'm adding that 1 that I borrowed to the 6 and the tenths. Again, I still have to borrow, so this 16 becomes a 15, and this now is 10. Now I can subtract. 10 minus 2 is 8, 15 minus 7 is 8, 6 minus 5 is 1, and 1 minus 0 is 1. Now this is how you check your answer. You want to take the difference between those two, which is 11.88, and I want to add it to the 5.72 because these two together should give me what I started with. I'm going to go ahead and add. 8 plus 2 is 10, carry the 1. Oh, let me put my decimal down. 8 plus 1 is 9, plus 7 is 16, carry the 1. 1 plus 1 is 2, plus 5 is 7, and 1, and yes, check. 17.60 is the same as 17.6. This 0 right here is in the hundredths. There is one, we just don't put it there. Let's go ahead and do another one. 8 minus 2.4. Again, I have to line up the decimals. But if you notice, 2 and 46/100ths has a decimal point, but 8 doesn't. Which means it's always at the end because this represents 8 whole. Which means 8 ones. So it's 8 point minus 2.46. A lot of kids will write the number 8, but they'll forget that they actually have to fill in zeros for the place values because you have to take 46 away from up here, and that's why you need those zeros. Again, I cannot take 6 from 0, 4 from 0. I have to borrow here. I'm first going to line up my decimals. I'm going to borrow from the 8 becomes a 7. This is a 10. I still need to borrow. This is a 9. This is a 10. 4, 5, 5. That is your answer. I'm going to go ahead. That was on your pretest. So, Johnny has $120.42 in his piggy bank. He decides to take out $48.89. How much money does he have left in his piggy bank? These buzzwords are telling us to subtract. So, you always subtract from what you start with. I start with $120.42, and he takes out $48.89. Again, you must line up the decimals. I'm going to see I have to borrow. I can't take 9 from 2, 4 from 8, 8 from 0, 4 from 2. To borrow from the 1 becomes a 0. This is a 12. This becomes 11. This is a 10. I still have to keep borrowing. This is a 9. This is 14. Still have to borrow. This is 13, and this is 12. 12 minus 9 is 3. 13 minus 8 is 5. 9 minus 8 is 1. And 11 minus 7 is I'm sorry, 11 minus 4 is 7. However, the question is how much money. You had to submit a dollar sign or write the word dollars. $71.53. The next one. Susie orders a purse for $23.99, a sweater for $45.49, and a ring for $52.89 from Kohl's Online. She adds $11.82 for taxing, shipping, and handling. What is the total cost? They want you to add everything, including this tax, shipping, and handling. So I have to add all of these, and again, you must line up all your decimal points. I'm going to go ahead and add this also, because I have to add everything. When you purchase stuff online, you have to add that in. Lining up my decimal points, I'm going to go ahead and add. If I have 3 nines, 3 times 9 is 27, plus 2 is 29. I'm going to go ahead and add 8 and 8, which is 16. To the 4 gives me 20, 29, 31. When I add, I try to find groups of 10. I'm going to add 5, 3, and 2 all make 10, plus 3 is 13, plus 1 is 14. Again, my groups of 10, 5, 4, and 1 right here makes 10, 12, 13. However, the total cost, you had to have a dollar sign submitted. And that is the total cost of Susie's order.